Hello there. A friend of a Facebook friend wanted me to watch a video. It was kind of a video trade-off situation. I had him watch 4 short videos on the impossibility of Noah's flood. They were by Taylor X04, Wildwood Claire 1, Potholer 54, and Don Exodus 2. And he requested that I watch Forbidden History, Dinosaurs, and the Bible. It was over an hour long, which I really think was a pretty fair trade. His was narrated by Jeffrey Jack. I'm going to call him Jack because I think that Jack pretty much had everything to do with these videos. It was like one big video, or you could watch it in 7 parts. But this is a response to Brian, the friend of a Facebook friend, and any creationists who stop by. But imagine watching over an hour of drawings like this one. This is their main evidence throughout this video. Drawings of dinosaurs like this pterodactyl. Because they figured that if people drew pictures, it's because they lived with people during that time. They could see them. Of course, I'm wondering, you know, we do draw a lot of pictures of fairies. And they have more evidence, even more. They have the Cherokee symbol, which they say is the pterodactyl. Now, they found maybe 4 pictures of the Cherokee Thunderbird. It's the Thunderbird, and they have slightly longer beaks, and so they said, well, the Cherokee symbol was the pterodactyl. Actually, let's take a look. I googled Thunderbird, Cherokee symbol, and this is what came up. Well, you know, lots of weird things come up, but I mean, you can get the picture. It's modeled after the bald eagle, and I mean, it's just, I mean, I could just keep scrolling down and you will see many pictures of bald eagles, and even if you read about it, it's bald eagles. So this pterodactyl thing is not true, and I do think that that is deceitful. I think that they intentionally did that. I'm pretty certain they know that it was the bald eagle, because that's what comes up if you do any investigation whatsoever. Jack also talks about fire-breathing dragons. But, you know, any pictures of fire-breathing dragons, if you look at them, they are just these smiley dragons or these dragons with fire coming out, and you don't see any adaptations around the mouth, the throat, perhaps the nose, the eyes, anything for all that fire coming out, the amount of heat. You'd have to have some kind of a feature to allow that fire to come out without all of it burning up. But you don't, do you? You just see a smiley picture of a dragon. Jack still believes that fire-breathing dragons exist. Now, there were fire-breathing snakes in mythology, and with the Chippewa Indians, there were fire-breathing bulls with the Greeks, but of course, those are all myths. Now, in the Bible, there was fire-breathing horses in Revelations, and there was also, of course, 7-headed dragons. I know my grammar is horrible here. There were 7-headed dragons. But Jack doesn't focus on those. Jack uses this technique. He shows a picture of the Brachiosaurus, all the while talking about the beast of the Bible. So you will think the beast of the Bible is this picture right here, this Brachiosaurus. He then says the behemoth is a huge animal, so it must be either an elephant, a hippo, or a dinosaur. He takes it down to 3 choices right away. Actually, of course, the story in the Bible of the behemoth was more likely an ox or a bull. But, well, let's see. He gives the description. He says, it has 4 legs, eats grass. Now, the Brachiosaurus probably ate things more from the top of trees, though I think it had some moss and it probably had some horsetails, which is a plant. But there was no mention anywhere in research that it ate grass. Of course, oxes and bulls do eat grass. But, moving on, the description in the Bible continues. It was a strong animal, large, with a strong belly. Now, Jack changes that to a large belly, and he says, well, the biggest belly is a Brachiosaurus. This belly is bigger than an elephant or a hippo, so this is it. So this is how he comes to think that the behemoth is a Brachiosaurus. And he also says that it has a tail that moves like a cedar, and this is the one closest to that description. Well, actually, how true. This is more of a cedar than the elephant or the hippo. But the Bible story really wasn't talking about a tail. A tail is a euphemism for something that hangs right about there. air and swings back and forth strong like a cedar. And the reason is because it was trying to show that the bull or the ox had virility and power. So, yeah, I just thought that was kind of funny. In Forbidden History, Dinosaurs in the Bible, they use fuzzy images of all their monsters like the Loch Ness Monster, but I mean, who doesn't? And then he did something really funny. Jack did something amusing. He first showed a picture of the American Heritage Dictionary. Then he zeroed in on a definition from another dictionary, which remains unnamed anywhere I can find, but they just say it's a dictionary from 1946, and it had like 11 different meanings for dragon, but the first one was dragon, now rare. But you have to keep in mind, this was 1946, and I don't know, they're trying to make it seem like, well, it's in this one dictionary, so, you know, that means that dragons must have been common at one time, and now they're rare. So they were living, but again, didn't name the dictionary whatsoever, so who knows what that was written in. But I can just assure you, you know, my parents were full-fledged adults in 1946, as they were born in 1912 and 1914, and they never mentioned meeting any fire-breathing dragons while they walked extensively around the northern woods. Jack insists that we don't see dinosaurs because they are in jungles, hidden way in jungles. Yet we have pictures of birds and insects from the far reaches of the jungles. Those dinosaurs must hide well. Jack says in some countries the pterodactyls come out at night. So that's why there are no pictures. Really, Jack? We don't have any cameras that can take pictures at night? No night vision, video recordings, anything? That's why we don't see the pterodactyls. They come out at night. Later in the video, I mean, this stuff is just, you want a face palm or something, but you know, I would mess up my glasses if I did. Later in the video, they say that 3 teachers saw a pterodactyl as they were driving along. They saw the pterodactyl fly by overhead. Nobody snapped a cell phone picture as usual, but the teachers really give it validity because they're teachers, of course. I thought that was interesting. Of course, these teachers were from Texas. But anyway, sorry, Texans. No matter where they were from, just because somebody's a teacher doesn't mean that they really know their birds. I mean, how many of them have taken an ornithology course? Like I have. Or an Audubon member. But anyway, you know, it could have been a sandhill crane, it could have been a great blue heron, a pileated woodpecker, a giant flying fruit bat, or a hoax. I'm thinking the latter. Creationists are trying to make people believe that dragons exist because they're mentioned in the Bible. Now I have to give you the background, and the dinosaurs are recent because of the 6,000-year limit. Oddly though, even if a dinosaur did exist, it would not prove a young Earth, and it does not disprove evolution, because we do have some species that have not evolved much. Either their habitat didn't change very much over the course of millions of years, you know, it just really didn't change that much, or they could change to the new habitats without having to change their structure very much. Now, all of them have changed a little bit, like crocodiles and coelacanths, that's a type of fish, scorpions. There's a... Oddly, creationists use ichthyostones as evidence. I like this one because it did show a man, looks like a dinosaur that he's riding on, and I thought that was kind of amusing. But there are all kinds of ichthyostones. Here, I'll just kind of pan out, I guess. Just lots of drawings on the stone. Dr. Cabrera was a big promoter of these ichthyostones, and he said that some had dinosaurs on them and some did not. The stones were supposed to support dinosaurs living with people. He said that originally a farmer found the stones in a cave and gave them to Dr. Cabrera. Well, they don't tell where the cave is. Nobody ever knows where these stones actually came from, so there's no way to actually date them. They always look so very clean to me. But yes, that's one of the problems. No dirt clinging on them and no cave. but they insist that's where it's from. And they said later that the farmer was arrested for selling stones to local tourists, and he admitted that he had made them himself. One of the people, I think they used a dentist drill to make these. After a while, there were tons of people making these. There were like 16,000 of these Ica stones. The stones show Aztec warriors fighting with monsters, people doing brain surgeries, flying machines, and people with monsters or dinosaurs. A lot of the locals admitted to making these Ica stones. In 1975, Basilio I don't know how to say this, Uchuya? That's what we're going to say it is. Uchuya and Irma Gutierrez de Aparcana said that they made many of the stones themselves and sold them to Dr. Cabrera. And also, by the way, that farmer said under pressure that he, because when he got arrested, he said, yeah, actually I sold them to him, not give them. But anyway, these people, the Gutierrez de Aparcana people, they said that they looked at comic books, school books, and pictures to learn how to make these. So it really doesn't prove that dinosaurs lived with anyone, and no people, because honestly there's a 60 million year gap between hominids and dinosaurs. But anyway, I also noticed on the video that they tried to attach these Ica stones to Nazca lines. Nazca was a real civilization of people that actually made line designs on walls, and they made those crop circles, which we now have a pretty plausible explanation for. But they tried to attach the Ica things to the Nazca things to give the Ica things some validity. Aren't these cute? These are the clay figurines of Aparcana. Here, we'll get kind of a close-up of some of them. Aren't they sweet? There we go. You got a good look at them. All right. I think they're even more fun than the Ica stones. The video claims that these were scientifically dated to 2500 BC, but that's kind of amusing because that would put them just a little bit before the flood. Can you imagine those figurines lasting through the flood and looking so perfect? Nothing chipped, not at all. But the most recent tests using signal regeneration, they showed that these figurines were fired, because of course clay has to get baked, so they were fired in about 1939. It was when Jules Rude paid local people to make them for him. Now, it's rare to find statues from history that are not broken with pieces, because usually when people dig them up, they end up breaking. This is when the people went to dig these up, they broke actual real artifacts that had been buried there, broke those, but none of these got broken. Isn't that something? Probably because they were put into pits that the people had dug first. They filled them with soil that had fresh manure in it. You could find their fingerprints in clods of dirt, and then they pulled these up, and of course then they were all perfect, except for a couple. Once they found out that that was a problem, they intentionally broke some with very sharp breakings. Nothing was worn, nothing was eroded. It's just amazing that these are in the video as evidence. All these things are in the video. This is their evidence that dinosaurs lived with people and dragons lived with people. To me, it's crazy you would rather believe that this is proof of dinosaurs and dragons living at the same time as people than study real animals, their history, fossils, how to protect them, the environments that they are in and the stresses they're under now, how to protect them. And aren't mass graves of giant wombats and blue-footed boobies on the Galapagos Islands and bowerbirds and their weird habits? Google bowerbirds, B-O-W-E-R, birds, and just look at the images, what they do. Aren't they as interesting as fire-breathing dragons? And they're real. Personally, I would worry about any narrator who says this. Jack said, in 780 AD, fiery dragons were flying across the firmament. Why are there no dead dragons? If we had dragons just recently, and maybe still, why are there no bodies and no fossils? Jack says some dinosaurs died off after the flood. So how did they die off? Well, he claims they died during the Ice Age after the flood. the Ice Age was millions of years ago. Any Ice Age was millions of years ago. But I'm assuming he's talking about what they call the mini Ice Age. This was from the 1550s to the 1780s, and it was just kind of a period of some glaciation. That it was primarily in the northern hemisphere and just parts of the northern hemisphere. Kind of came and went a little bit, but yes, some animals could have died. I'm sure they did die during that period, frozen. But I would think when it thawed, perhaps they could find full bodies preserved in the ice, or bones, something, but you have nothing. You have nothing. I don't understand. Actually, I do understand. Now, my favorites are coming up. In 1925, they thought they found a plesiosaur. They said it's plesiosaur-like, and it washed up on the beach in California. Let me show you the pictures. Now, these are really pretty badly decomposed. Let me see if I can zero in on these. Doesn't that look like possibly a plesiosaur head? Well, I could see where they'd get a little confused there. Whoops, this is the whole picture there, but you can see how decomposed. There's almost nothing left of the body. What's interesting is that they never ever thought about what locally comes into that area sometimes, what kinds of large animals. Instead, they just said, oh, this is probably a plesiosaur dinosaur. And this is still in the movie as evidence, by the way. You know, that's where I got it. It's evidence that there's plesiosaurs that just lived. This is a Baird's beaked whale. And it comes into California sometimes. I will show you some pictures. Now, my pictures are kind of gross because what I felt showed the best face to coincide with the pictures that I just showed you, unfortunately, are where some fishermen got a hold of them, or, you know, people who mangle these things to eat them. But this is the face of the Baird's beaked whale. You can see the similarity of the shape and the beak and all. And I'll show you one more, and this one's even more gross, so cover your eyes if you can't handle it. These are the Japanese, and they are probably laughing, but look at the head. Look at how that looks just like it. There's your plesiosaur for you. But anyway, the Japanese are probably laughing their heads off that we think that that's a plesiosaur. Now here's another funny one. A red flag should come up anytime that you hear that a taxidermist found an odd-looking specimen. But we had a little monster. It was called Bessie, the Lake Erie sea monster. And I vaguely remember being really creeped out by this when I was kind of young. Well, I was probably a little older, you know, I got creeped out easily. I'll show you a picture. This was recently in the Creation Museum in Texas, and it was on Kent Hovind's website. This is the Lake Erie sea monster Bessie that they said is a baby plesiosaur, most likely a baby plesiosaur. Well, let me tell you the truth of this. Creationist Carl Baugh saw this at a taxidermy show, a trade show, and Pete Peterson was the one who made this. And what he did was he took a fish, and it was most likely a burbot, and he kind of made the head look in the shape of the S shape, and then he took fins. The fins went all along the edge of the burbot, and he cut them out kind of triangularly in order to make it look more dinosaur-like, and of course stuffed it. He sewed on flippers. He told Carl Baugh that it was a fish that he made to look like a little baby dinosaur, and Carl Baugh put it in the Creation Museum. And it's in this video as evidence. Anyway, I'll show you what the burbot looks like, and that they think that it most likely, here, because when they show, actually I had a front view of a burbot, but I don't, but this is the front view of Bessie, the sea monster, and they say that it looks almost like, and you can see where they could cut Pete could have cut the triangles out of those fins there, and made it look like that. Now we're going to go to the African Congo, because isn't that a good place to hide dinosaurs? Jack says that Mokele Memembe has been seen by many tribesmen, and it's like a big dinosaur that hides deep in the Congo. And he said, yes, there's evidence because so many of these people have seen Mokele Memembe. Well, there's actually a reason they don't have any proof for Mokele Memembe. It's because if you actually showed a picture of this dinosaur, it would ruin the whole purpose of Mokele Memembe. This is a spiritual vision. These people see a vision. It's not seeing the real thing. So that's why so many people have seen Mokele Memembe. It's a spiritual thing. So anyway, oh, I do have a picture of a dinosaur that is, it lives now, and we have the entire skeleton, and I want you to see this. Brian and Creationist, please take a look. Look at this. The full skeleton of this dinosaur. Isn't this something? It's an emu. This is an emu. Emus and birds are actually dinosaurs. They evolved from dinosaurs. And you can see that. I mean, really, come on, you can see that. Now let me show you something even more interesting. This is from locallobo.org. Aaron Ra apparently he had some emus. And this part here is their useless wings. And under the useless wings they found an elbow, a wrist, the claw. Can you see the claw? It's right here. And on ostriches they have about 3 of these fingers with claws. So that's when they, this is kind of like an atavism or I forgot what they're called, vestigial, something that's useless now, but at one time that was an arm. An arm of a dinosaur. Isn't that cool? Now that's reality. And that's exciting. That's interesting. A find like that. Isn't that cool? Well, anyway, I know that the video said that there were scientists who are keeping all of your evidence from the public, even though, it's out there on websites and all. But it's not really evidence, is it? Because I just disproved all of it. And I'm just a regular old person. So, Brian and other creationists, I'm just letting you know, if you want to take your cameras with night vision and get pictures of pterodactyls, or if you want to go slay a fire-breathing dragon and cut it up and bring the pieces to us for evidence, or perhaps find a dinosaur, tame it, and ride it into town, I'm sure the scientists will be all over it.